Yo, what's up? It's your boy Currency 365. Hope you guys are doing well. Legends never die, they stay in our hearts. If you want to support us, click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and also you can come down here and hit the join button under the video or in our channel section. And you can also join our Patreon, patreon.com/currency365. And we also have Cash App and also PayPal for supports if you want to sow some seeds. Peace out. God bless. Enjoy the video and keep the movement going. Legends. Bye.
Okay, so let me see. Let's do this because there's been some very good questions based on my last article. Because it's like, and the conversation I'm having with a couple of people, it's like, look, you know, you said that we shouldn't pull out of Afghanistan, and I believe that. All right, but I keep reading these articles that we're trying to pull out of Iraq, and that's more relevant today to our conversation today than anything. But the United States, we don't need to have a full army in Iraq. We can have, 2,000, 3,000 soldiers in Iraq. And by the way, we still have bases all over the Middle East. And that's the same thing with Afghanistan. We didn't have to fully pull out of Afghanistan. We could have had 2,500, 3,000 soldiers there, and the war would have technically would have been over. But no, we just pulled out. So let me read this for you guys real quick. It says, as U.S.-Iran conflict builds across the Middle East, Iraq is caught in the middle. Members of the Popular Mobilization Force, mostly Shiite militia group, and the posts at the Iraq border in Syria outside al-Badi, Iraq. The Iraq Prime Minister traveled to Washington in spring. He hoped to negotiate a much-needed economic development package and discuss shared strategies, interests with the United States and one of its country's most important international allies. But the very day he arrived in mid-April, events unfolded at home, serves as a stark reminder of the competing influence of the Iraq Prime Minister. Caught in between, Iran was sending drones and missiles to attack Israel, and at least one Iraqi militia backed by Iran participating in the attacks. You guys see how more deep this gets in? It's not just a couple of things here. Both the United States and Iran have long held sway in Iraq. But since the war between the U.S. ally Israel and Iran-backed Hamas broke out in Gaza Strip almost 10 months ago, they are increasingly at odds. With regards to Iraq, one of the most contentious issues is the continued presence of 2,500 U.S. troops on Iraqi soil. Over the past 20 months, Iran has used its considerable influence to try to persuade the Iraqis to push those forces out. And if it succeeds, it would give Iran even more say over Iraqi's policies. I don't need to read the rest, but I will send you the article. And by the way, Martha out there sent me probably 6 or 7 articles, and I want to thank you, Martha, because you basically cut my homework in half for doing this. The articles that I had have from the U.S. Department, the Treasury, and from the White House, that means it's official, by the way. It's not an opinion piece. It's official policy. All right? And that's what I built my bullet points, but you did a lot outside of that, and I want to appreciate that. So everybody needs to thank Martha. And thank you again, Martha. But so we have 2,500 troops in the United States, and there's a couple in Iran. I want to make a point here. That's major influence. So the article stated that, Iran is trying to get complete influence of Iraq. So when Trump asked Secretary Chris Miller to get out of Iraq, and Afghanistan and make it happen. That's what he was asking us. So you get out of Iraq, then Iraq falls into Iran's hands. And it's clearly stated here, there's 2,500 troops. You don't need an entire army. You don't need to be at war with Iraq or anybody else. You guys see what I mean? Just the numbers. If we could have did that in Afghanistan, end the war, say the war is officially, shake hands with the Taliban and do whatever. But instead we completely pulled out, 100%. Two incompetent presidents up for everybody. And that's that. I don't know who you're going to vote for or why or whatever. That is, I could take it into a court of law because that's where this policy is coming from. Trump put it out. His Secretary of Defense made it happen, got it ratified, and it happened. So even if you say, well, Trump would have probably left troops in there, great. That's a fantastic statement after you realize you made the shake on the planet. And that's exactly how we interpret that. But we do not need to be pulling our 2,500 troops, which are advisors, out of Iraq. We don't need to be pulling them out of any country in the Middle East because we don't want to give Iran any type of advance, any way, shape, or form, until we can shore that problem up. So it's deeper than just Iraq, and it's they're going to revalue. That's what's going on. Is that we're sick and tired of the influence of Iran inside of Iraq. The way that we set up the coalition government, we defeated Saddam Hussein. So when George Bush Jr. got on that ship and said mission accomplished, then you had all these liberals, far left liberals, and now the alt-right saying, here's this cheese dick out there talking about, mission accomplished. He was so wrong because then all this other stuff happened. No, they kicked the government out. They defeated that government. And we tried to set up a coalition government that was pro-West. Didn't have to be a democracy like us. That's not the point. It's just that they weren't backed up by terrorist groups or radical groups. It was a moderate. They tried to set up a moderate coalition. That's what they tried to do. And you have a far right, it's on the far left saying, oh, look, okay, we failed is because people didn't push for it. It wasn't because of negative intent. Now, was it because of, Halliburton? Halliburton did this. The Middle East was coming apart. Saddam Hussein was creating wars, all right? There was going to be a major war in the Sunni Shia world, and we stopped them from having it. Remember Saddam Hussein, the war against Iraq and Iran? Go look that up and see how many people died. Millions of people died. And it was coming down the road. You had more problems. You had Al-Qaeda. You had ISIS. You had all these groups. It needed to be shored up, and that's exactly what we did. So, going through all that process, regardless of what these alt-rights say, it had to happen. Our markets had to be protected. Their markets had to be protected. Because Iran was gaining influence and they were gaining power. And if they didn't, Saddam Hussein was gaining influence and gaining power. That's not good because he attacked Kuwait. He attacked everybody he can get his hands on. He got away with what he can get away with. That's why we're in the Middle East. So we don't need to be pulling out of anywhere. Because that type of influence is still, that threat is still there. So again, we don't need to be going to, we don't need to have major wars, right? But we do need to police the region. And I resent these morons who are out there who are bitching about local police being defunded and using that principle saying local police, they need the funds. Absolutely, 100%. But also our military needs the funds to protect us outside the United States, our markets outside the United States. And I resent the idea they don't have a clue what they're talking about, and they think that the dollar can be what it needs to be, and we can protect ourselves, and we can expand our markets without protecting ourselves outside of our borders of the United States of America. So you can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, I resent the people out there who want to defund the police and turn right around and say, no, we need to bring our military in because there's crimes going on outside the United States, and it's aimed at us. And if it's not aimed at us, they'll gain so much more power and market influence that they will aim it at us. And I'm just sick and tired of that talk. The United States needs troops in Afghanistan, about 2,500, because look at the population in Afghanistan. Look at the population in Iraq. That 2,500 troops or advisors is a major threat to Iran and the terrorist groups. And so, it's a big deal. It seems like a small number, but it's not. It's a big deal. It's a lot of influence. So somehow we need to get that type of policing in Afghanistan on one side, keep the troops that we have in Iraq on the other side, so we have Iran at a minimum surrounded. We can go after them financially, because what we're talking about today, you guys, that's what it's tied to. It's all tied to that. And we're going to start punishing Iraq for being influenced too much. We don't mind them being Sunni. We don't mind them being Shia. It's none of our business. But when they support groups and those groups are using financial institutions inside of Iraq to laundry money and to get U.S. dollars, we're going to make them pay. And that's what we're talking about here today. It's not because of some guy who wrote an article somewhere, has a criminal record or whatever. Open your eyes, get your head out of your ears, put your big boy pants on, because this is reality. This is what's happening. That's why I wanted to do this audio for you guys. All right? I'm going to tell you, most of you guys are just total warriors. Like, hey, whatever happens, thank you for keeping it real. You guys, thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate that. And I'm not kidding. You can ask Bob. Bob's laughing. I know he's laughing because it's like, you put your heart and soul into something, try to tell the best truth that you can, and it's like, hey, this picture right here doesn't look good. Oh, you son of a, I never liked you anyways. Like, come on, you guys. This is the reality. To this day, with everything that we talked about, right? It's like, oh my God, that's a negative picture. No, they could turn around. But right now, I'm neutral. I don't know how this is going to turn out. I just don't. So let me read again. I'm going to go back to the stated. The Treasury has been pressuring Iraq's central bank to expand an electronic platform across the country's banking system to help prevent the smuggling of U.S. dollars to Iran over other destinations. So that's what you need to be looking for, is that electronic platform that has different instruments in it that can block, qualifying instruments that can block these type of smuggling or money laundering, all right? These actions and policies aim to protect both the U.S. and Iraqi financial systems from abuse, support Iraq's economic growth. That's our number one goal here in the United States. And I hope the CBI becomes compliant. But right now, this isn't new, you guys. This isn't new. It's not something that just came up. We've always told them this is what you need to do. They haven't done it. And like I said, if they could have, they would have. There's, I don't have enough information to specifically say what it is. Is a threat? Is, who's sitting on is there somebody in the CBI blocking it? Is there's, finance is a weird thing. It gets entangled. But that's all it is. That's all it is. So we need to keep the troops in Iraq. We need to put troops back in Afghanistan, or that arena. Special Forces, 2,500. You guys, advisory. They don't need to be nothing other than that, just to make sure that crazy groups don't build a base to threaten the West. Boom, we're good. And then pray that Iraq fixes its financial system, goes after these banks and said, yes, we're going to be compliant. Do whatever they can to do it. That's what they need to do. But that's what you guys need to watch. You need to specifically watch. I'll read it one more time. U.S. Treasury has been pursuing Iraq Central Bank to expand, or pressuring Iraq Central Bank to expand an electronic platform across the country's banking system to help prevent the smuggling of U.S. dollars to Iran. You get it? Underlined 500 million times? So I think, what do you think, Bob? Is there anything that I missed?
No, I think you pretty well covered it. I know you got a lot of information from Martha, which is great. I know she's been a great source over the years we've known her. And I think that covers it. I mean, guys, you got to realize, even though sometimes when you get a change in information, the first thing that your ego wants you to do is be afraid. It loves to keep you in fear. And it's one of the things Tony and I have talked about every time we talk to you. Fear is the element that just drives us into doing crazy things. So back off, catch breath, be okay. Remember, this is a shoebox investment. We don't know which way it's going to go. Based on policy, it should reevaluate itself and become a major player in the Middle East. It hasn't happened yet. And now we've got problems that haven't been addressed and taken care of yet. So like him, I'm not done with it. I'm not throwing out. I'm not giving up either. We're just happy to be aware of what's going on around us. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, Bob. So just to be clear, you guys, this is not an investment. It's speculation. You have to understand. If you don't know what that means, look it up on AI. What's the difference between speculation and an investment? Well, it's a different animal. All right. I've used that in the past. I've used this is an investment, and it's incorrect. It's just you get talking, and sometimes you just say stuff incorrectly. We are speculating. That's a completely different ballgame. Investing is something completely different. All right, but also I want to read a couple questions for you guys, and then so I don't want to take up too much of your time. So right after I made the last audio, by the way, the audio that why am I investing in this? Or I just gave him a speech, right, Bob? Why am I speculating in the Iraqi dinar? And I told you guys that I would do a foundational audio for you guys and put it all together. And I still believe in all that stuff today. We just have to get past what these guys are talking about, what we talked about today. The threat to the market system, the threat to Iraq being part of the international market system, and everything. So we'll watch. That's all we can do. So here's the question. Do you anticipate, it says, I feel like the RV will happen perhaps in a few months rather than years. Okay, cool. Do you anticipate that the exchange rate will be close to the same no matter which bank or exchange entity? You guys, so the rate is the rate. If a bank charges a percentage because of an exchange, that's on the bank. You're just simply going to have to shop, and nobody knows. Nobody knows. So to clarify that, what does this guy mean? Let's say it comes in. We'll just use throw a number, 25 cents, and a bank charges you 2% for the exchange. And there's a difference. Like when people were actually buying the dinar from banks here in the United States, there was a difference in the exchange rate. One bank was 1%, one bank was 2%. I can't remember what mine was. I bought mine from Chase Bank. I bought all my Iraqi dinar from an American Chase Bank, and I asked them where did they get their dinar. They said they got it from Bank of America, and it specifically came out of St. Louis. So it's like, well, where's it being shipped from? St. Louis. And I don't have that written down. I just remember that. It's like, well, and it's like, yeah, you actually got the best exchange rate you can get. You definitely don't want to go to these private guys where they're charging 40% to buy the currency. That's where they're making the money. And you guys, I don't have any problem with anybody making any money or anything like that. Obviously, people bought from them. People didn't have access to Chase Bank like I did, so they just bought online or whatever. But there is differences. So it's a good question. It is, but there's no way to know. what the banks will charge for their exchange, but I'm pretty sure they're going to be competitive. All right. But his second half of his questions, or would it be wise to open an account with a major bank? I don't know. I don't know. I simply don't. I don't have the answer to that. But I wanted to answer your question because I get that all the time. So the second one, it's Mike, and Mike, I appreciate your question, and I'm not going to read the intro, just the question part. So I feel like I understood the message and interpretation of the article, but perhaps these thoughts will uncover that I may have misunderstood it. It sounded like to me, one of the goals is to try to get the U.S. dollar as the predominant currency in Iraq. Could this be their way of getting notes off the street? No. And that's a good question. You know what? Even though it's a big no, and it's, some people could say, well, kind of look between the lines here. No, don't look in between the lines. But that, Mike, the idea that you asked that question makes me unbelievably happy, because that's how you have to think about currency. Always be thinking about currency, right? And, are they expanding their money supply or are they shrinking their money supply? So in my mind, you've got it down pat. You're always asking that question. How does this reduce the money supply? One way or the other, the Iraqi currency or the U.S. currency or vice versa. I love it. But, it's not a plot for the United States. You guys, we already have what we need. And the United States, Iraq's energy is tied up in the U.S. dollar. If Iraq decides to somehow get out of the U.S. dollar and sell their currency, is it going to hurt the U.S. dollar? No, because they're going to want to invest in our markets in other venues anyways. So they're going to need the U.S. dollar. So it's still going to be relevant. All right, that's the power of the U.S. dollar. I've been doing a study for a couple of groups, and you can't imagine how much influence the U.S. dollar has right now. There is nothing like it that's ever existed. That's why it's so strange. There's people out there saying, U.S. dollar's in trouble. It's like, okay, what are you looking at? It's like, well, look at our debt. That has nothing to do with the power of the U.S. dollar. Our debt doesn't determine your debt. Let's say your personal debt. You owe for a house. You owe for a car. You're still paying for your tattoo. You know what I mean? That doesn't have any bearing on the value of the currency you have in your pocket. How does that work? Anyways, I don't want to get into that. But super good question. Let me read his other question. I've always heard, probably mostly by crazy rumors spreading bloggers that crave attention, that there would be some curveballs or negative information right before the RV will occur or would occur. It's just a possibility in your mind. And you know what? You are correct. And I'll give you an example, prime example. China emphatically denied that they were going to devalue their currency. And people were asking them because people knew. Every time China bought a shitload of treasury bills and did a couple other moves, they were going to devalue the currency. Right now, they're buying gold. They're just simply buying a ton of gold. And so they're going to devalue the currency. But I think your question is brilliant, and I think it's correct. But and by the way, Mike, the reason I staged the audio that I did today, and I went back and I read all those articles from the Treasury Department and from the WhiteHouse.gov, is so it's not just coming from news sources from Iraq that would make us think that this might be some type of curveball or something like that. And having said that, I don't want you guys out there looking at every article. It's like, well, this might be a curveball. This could be a bait and switch. This could be no. There's very specific financial moves that will be made in Iraq before they revalue the currency. And the news that come out, if they're trying to hide it, would be completely opposite of those moves. And there's nothing like that going on. And like I said, China is a perfect example. They came out and specifically said, no, we're not going to devalue our currency. It's a lie. It's a rumor. And then the very next day, right? They devalue the currency. So let's put things in order to be very clear. Iraq has to be in the right position, and the United States to be international, and be open up internationally for their currency, the Iraqi currency, to gain value and be recognized. All right. And right now, the United States is punishing them. We're going to punish them. We're simply going to punish them. And we'll see if it works. Hopefully it works. Because I can't imagine the CBI, the Ministry of Planning, the Ministry of Finance, and Iraq's parliament saying, no, I don't want to do business with the West. I don't want to expand our markets. I haven't read anything anywhere where anything like that has been said or suggested. So we have that going for us. The only thing we can do is watch and see what transpires. But Iran has influence, and when it comes to these proxy wars, in a way that they're actually kind of brilliant at the way that they do it. They have way more influence than what they should have. They're very, very good at it. So let's just sit back and watch. All right? Right now, there is not a path for Iraq to do international trade. Right now, they're going to be sanctioned because of these banking practices. And it's not the CBI who's doing it. For some reason, the CBI will not and cannot shore these guys up. And it might just be threats, like, hey, back off, we'll kill you. These guys are terrorists. It might be something as simple as that. We're going to have to watch and see. So, guys, with all my heart and soul, just stay in reality, all right? No weird emails, no weird happy thoughts that just, I want to be happy and positive too. Just kumbaya shit. It's not reality. Stay away from that stuff. For the love of God, stay away from that stuff. And you guys hit me up with any questions. Excuse me, I apologize. I'm going to send these links to you guys, or Bob is, when he puts the audio up. And just be positive. There's always, Iraq is such a small piece of all the money that's flowing around this planet. It's not the only solution. I keep telling you that. I think there's 25 trillion worth of U.S. dollar and money flowing around the planet 24 hours. You take all the money that's flowing around internationally, right? Put it all together, and in U.S. it's like 25 trillion or something like that, flowing around every single day. Yeah, Iraq's not the only solution. So just bear that in mind. Again, I'm sure we'll have an audio up coming up, questions or whatever, but my intent is to put up the foundation audio up. So, why I speculated on the Iraqi dinar, and why, everything I look at, all those principles and everything like that will be coming up here pretty soon. So again, thanks for the questions. Thank you, Martha. I don't know if you were anticipating an audio coming up or what, but those articles were great because they were outside of the original article that I read, the last audio. So it was, that much more information, but thank you. And Bob,
Yep.
What do I say,
it. Yeah. Hey, listen, folks, this is an update. This is the second time we've recorded this, and for some reason, the internet is just being funky today, and so it's going to sound a little bit weird. I apologize. Nothing we can do about it. The first time we did it, it was really bad. So this is our second shot at it. It's not as bad, but it's not near as clear as we've had it in the past. For that, I apologize.
I'm up in the mountains, Bob, so I guarantee that's what it is. It's just I'm not in the middle of nowhere.
Right. That's what I figured. Okay. All right. Well, that's it from my end. You okay there?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Bob.
All right. Bye-bye.